In the ancient city of Rome, a major conflict brewed, bringing forth one of history's most momentous events, the Roman Civil War between two formidable men, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, more commonly known as Pompey, and Gaius Julius Caesar. Their journeys to prominence were marked by ambition, audacity, and illustrious triumphs, but as the Gallic Wars concluded, the stage was set for a collision that would alter the course of Rome. Before I continue, I have a small request to make. Please help this fellow human by subscribing to my channel. It will mean a great deal to me. Thanks, and now let's continue. Pompey, a distinguished general, rose to prominence during Sulla's dictatorship, a prominent Roman general and statesman who played a crucial role in the late Roman Republic as both a military leader and a dictator. Pompey demonstrated his military prowess by raising legions from his estate workers to support Sulla's march on Rome. Bold and daring, he demanded a triumph in Africa, despite lacking senatorial rank, using his troops to enforce his demands. His loyalty to Sulla earned him the role of the dictator's problem solver, a position he would later assume for the Republic. However, Pompey's arrogance showed when he imitated his leader, using his troops' backing to force through his demands in Africa. Moreover, when Lepidus, a consul he had supported, rebelled in 79 BC, Pompey was granted Propraetorian Imperium to suppress him. Not stopping there, Pompey was allegedly responsible for the death of Lepidus' ally, Marcus Brutus the Elder, after his surrender. With successive victories in Spain, the Third Mithratic War, and campaigns against pirates, Pompey's ascendance was unstoppable, culminating in his consulship, unprecedented for someone with an equestrian background, at the age of 35. He was hailed as the first among equals in Rome, seemingly invincible. In retrospect, resisting Pompey appeared futile and self-destructive. In contrast, the young and ambitious Caesar found himself as the head of his household and an ally of his uncle Marius, a Roman general and statesman. However, Marius' defeat to Sulla led Caesar to hide with the army to avoid Sulla's wrath. Eventually returning to the political scene, Caesar supported Pompey and was inspired by him. As Caesar gained prominence in Spain, he sought a triumph for his victories, but the Senate denied him. The Triumvirate, a powerful alliance between Pompey, Caesar, and Crassus, emerged as a means to protect their interests against opposition. Caesar's rising influence and popularity in Rome, coupled with his remarkable achievements in Gaul, sparked tensions within the Senate, and enemies sought to undermine him. The Triumvirate itself was a significant factor in the unfolding conflict. The three powerful men, Pompey, Crassus, and Caesar, established an agreement to safeguard their interests. As the most influential figures in Rome, they aimed to ensure that no political action would take place without the approval of all three. While Pompey stood as the leading figure in Rome, Crassus was the wealthiest, and Caesar was the promising young star. The alliance appeared stable, but the delicate balance of power began to shift. Caesar's triumphs and popularity unsettled the Senate, while Pompey faced challenges from Clodius, a politician and street agitator, and also his disputes with Crassus over Egypt's bequests. The Triumvirate's foundation began to crumble under the weight of diverging ambitions. The breakdown of the Triumvirate further deepened the rift between Pompey and Caesar. After Pompey's wife and Caesar's daughter, Julia, passed away, their family ties weakened. Caesar, seeking to reaffirm their bond, offered Pompey a marriage alliance, but Pompey rejected it, choosing a politically unfavorable union. Metellus capitalized on the situation, manipulating Pompey against Caesar, contributing to the erosion of trust between the former allies. The legacy of Sulla's constitutional reforms cast a shadow over Rome. Sulla sought to prevent unchecked power grabs, but after his death, his reforms fell apart, leaving opportunities for ambitious individuals to rise. Ironically, Pompey, a constitutionalist himself, unwittingly undermined Sulla's constitution, allowing Caesar to exploit the situation to consolidate his power. In the midst of growing tensions, the Senate became divided. While some sought to restrain Caesar's power, fearing the threat he posed to the traditional order, attempts at compromise failed. In 51 BC, moves were made to strip Caesar of his command and legions, claiming that his task in Gaul was complete after his victory at Alesia. However, the Senate rejected these motions, partly due to Pompey's influence. As the summer of 50 BC arrived, positions became rigid, and it seemed inevitable that conflict was approaching. Pompey demanded that Caesar relinquish his army and provinces before standing for a second consulship. A proposal was made by Caesar's ally, Curio, for both men to give up their commands, but Pompey rejected it. As the political vice tightened around the two sides, war became increasingly likely. Both Caesar and Pompey were driven by pride, refusing to yield to each other's demands. The desire for war was not apparent until the last weeks of 50 BC, but the conservative faction found itself trapped and unable to emerge with dignity without aggressive action. Caesar, on the other hand, could not let his status and reputation collapse without a fight. Both sides seemed to believe that the other would eventually back down or offer acceptable terms for reconciliation. However, trust had deteriorated over the past few years, and repeated brinksmanship had made finding a compromise increasingly difficult. On January 1st, 49 BC, Caesar made a proposition that he would step down if other commanders did the same, but he insisted that their military forces should be of equal strength. This proposal appeared to carry a veiled threat of war if his terms were not met. Meanwhile, Caesar's representatives in the city conveyed a more conciliatory message, suggesting that he would give up Transalpine Gaul in exchange for keeping 2 legions and retaining his imperium, which granted him the right to triumph and stand for consul. However, these terms were rejected by Cato, who insisted on public presentation before the Senate. As tensions escalated, the Senate, on the verge of war on January 7, 49 BC, demanded that Caesar relinquish his post or be labeled an enemy of the state. A few days later, the Senate revoked Caesar's permission to stand for election in absentia and appointed a successor to his proconsulship in Gaul. Despite pro-Caesarian tribunes attempting to veto these decisions, the Senate ignored their objections and passed the Senatus Consultum Ultimum, granting magistrates the authority to take any necessary actions to safeguard the state. In response, several pro-Caesarian tribunes fled the city and sought refuge in Caesar's camp. The war officially began when, on either January 10th or 11th, Caesar crossed the Rubicon, a small river marking the border between Cisalpine Gaul and Italy proper. Caesar's crossing of the Rubicon symbolized the formal commencement of hostilities, and he was now considered a rebel. On both sides of the conflict, the ordinary soldiers followed their respective leaders, with the Gallic legions supporting Caesar and others aligning with Pompey and the consuls. Caesar addressed his men, highlighting the injustices committed against him by his political adversaries, emphasizing Pompey's betrayal, and condemning the Senate's disregard for the rights of the tribunes. The decision of which side to support was difficult for many Romans, as only a few were firmly committed to one faction or the other at the start of the conflict. Some, like Gaius Claudius Marcellus, who had been the consul in 50 BC and charged Pompey with defending the city, chose to remain neutral. Others, like Marcus Junius Brutus, who had personal ties to both sides, opted to leave the city and join Pompey's camp. Even Caesar's trusted lieutenant in Gaul, Titus Labienus, defected to Pompey, possibly due to Caesar's perceived monopolization of military honors or a lingering loyalty to Pompey. That's all for today. See you in the next episode of the Roman Civil War. If you like this video, please give it a like and share it with your friend, and if you have any suggestions for me, please let me know in the comments section. Thanks for watching and have a great day ahead.